If you change your mind, you change your life, just change your mind. The Lord loves you. He's standing with his arms wide open for you. Oh, be encouraged, cause this day's for you. Don't you let this opportunity pass by you. Yeah. Oh, change your mind.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out to be with us on our third installment of my new show, The Relevant Church, ? And again, the whole premise behind this show is that we want to talk about how the church can be more relevant, really by dealing with very relevant topics. We talked about mental health. We talked about what happened in DC last time. And today we want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, but sometimes it takes a back seat. And I really think we need to bring it to the forefront. And today's show is really a question. Do we still need a village? And that's taken from the Nigerian proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And so what I did today, I brought some people on that I have a great deal of respect for. Because they they take the village concept to heart. And I'll go ahead and tell you, let the cat out the bag. I absolutely believe we need a village, and these three do too. And so we're going to talk about it in hopes to inspire you, those of you that are watching, to participate in already existing villages, but maybe some of you will be inspired to start your own. We have to do some collaborative work to take care of the next generation. I absolutely believe that. And so today, my panel consists of three wonderful people, high passion people. So I expect to have a good time today. The first one, I'm bringing him back. He did such a great job for us last week, and he doesn't know yet, but he might be one of my return guests, just pretty much on the regular. My best friend, Craig Smith. I told you a little bit about Craig last week. Craig is a Wofford College graduate like myself. That's where we forged our friendship when we first got to college. We didn't like each other because he played wide receiver and I played DB, and we were enemies. And we became the best of friends. He graduated also law school at Florida School of Law, and he's a partner with Integreon firm, and he does some incredible work from the legal standpoint, the corporate standpoint, but he also does some wonderful work out in the community. So that's my boy y'all see on the screen, Craig. Next, we're going to bring on Coach Stan Carpenter. If you're in Greenville, you know Coach. Coach is a very visible guy. He's my son's first AAU coach, and we will love him forever for that. My son is crazy about him. He's the founder of SC Phenoms, Big Blue. And we were something to deal with back then. And so we're so grateful for Stan. Stan also coaches high school basketball over Eastside High School, the JV boys team. He's been in our community serving for a total of about 25 years. He used to be a police officer as well, so he taps into some of that as well. But he's also, he slipped me his resume. He didn't put this part on there, but I hope y'all get a little hint of it today. He's also a stand-up comedian and does wonderful work there. And so we're so glad to have Stan. And last but not least, if you're from Greenville, you know this lady right here too. This is Miss Lisa Sweeny. That's Lisa in full Technicolor. Lisa is a wonderful activist here in our city. She keeps herself to the forefront of making sure that our communities are on the top of the minds of our civic leaders, but not just in the area. Just this past year, even during the midst of COVID, God has blessed Lisa to expand her own touch, her own reach from the political standpoint. She has been instrumental in several campaigns this year here locally. Carl Allen and Leola Robinson here in Greenville, but she's also helped out James Smith down in Alabama. And most recently, she was instrumental in the Warnock and Ossoff races that really officially turned Georgia blue this year and allowed us to take the Senate back. And so, Lisa, we thank you so much for being a part of this. Guys, thank y'all for being on my show. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to get into this thing. We're talking about something that I know is near and dear to your hearts. Because I've watched you, I've talked to you, I've been a beneficiary of your efforts toward Village. And so, as I stated in the intro, this is really coming from the Nigerian proverb, it takes a village to raise a child? Let's do this. Let's just open it up to whoever wants to go first, but I want to hear from all of you on this question. That whole idea of it takes a village to raise a child. How do you personally just feel about that? And how has that impacted how you've approached your adult life? Anybody can jump out there first, but I do want to hear from all of y'all on that. This whole notion that it takes a village.
I'll go ahead and go first if it's okay. I absolutely believe that it does take a village. I think probably what has happened as we get deeper into the conversation, we'll find out that the keepers of the village, unfortunately for us, have gotten younger. Therefore, their outlook on keeping the village is different than what Big Mamas used to be, or Miss Sadie Mae, or some of the elders in the neighborhood, because they came from a different perspective. Now, our keepers of the village, unfortunately, are younger, and their perspective about the village is a little bit different.
Oh, we got to come back and hit that, Stan. Stan come out throwing punches early. Let's get it. But I feel you. I feel you. Lisa, Craig, who want to talk about it next? How you feel about this?
Well,
Okay.
I'll say I agree with Stan about the age of the matriarch and patriarchs of the village. But when we come back to that, I've got what I believe is the good news with respect to that. But look, I've said this to Wendell before, and I've said it in different organizations. The math just doesn't work out. If I've got one son, Wendell has two sons. If I'm only concerned about my son and Wendell's only concerned about his two sons, it just doesn't add up. Right. And I'll give you guys the perfect anecdote to why we still need a village. One of my son's good friends, I think they were in the 5th grade. His parents are divorced. Side note, my son's mom and I are divorced. And for those of you out there watching this right now who are divorced, you divorce the parent, you don't divorce the child. Right. And so, the day before Daddy's for Donuts breakfast, this young man sends me a text message, and he says to me, Mr. Smith, can you think of a way for me to trick my dad into coming to Donuts for Dad's Day with me?
Wow.
He'd come to the conclusion that there's no way that just based upon love that his dad would come, and he wanted me to help him trick his dad into being there. And so I told the young man, I almost said his name. I told him, I said, you know what? You don't have to worry about tricking him to be there. You can be there with me and my son. And thankfully, my son is not the kind of selfish kid who takes issue with the fact that I engage a lot of young men in trying to mentor. And so we had a blast. It was the three of us. I was probably wrong for this, but at some point we started throwing donuts at each other, and we had a good time. So yeah, there's the village is necessary, and if we don't have it, the hell that will be raised on our people for generations to come will boggle the mind.
Absolutely. Well said, man. Lisa,
Yes, sir.
I've watched you. Lisa, y'all, I've watched Lisa put together, bless her heart. I've watched her patch together little beat up vans and
yes.
And I'm like, Lisa, do you have your CDL? She's like, shh. She's driving 30 passenger buses and take the windows back up, and then she gets it packed with kids.
Yes, sir.
Take them all somewhere. So I know how I've seen it, but tell the people how you feel about this whole village concept.
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, Pastor, I really want to thank you for having me to be a part of this meaningful conversation, which is so needed. I'm 1000% for the village. I want to just go ahead and put out there also happy Martin Luther King's Day to everyone. So I
Yes,
think
yes,
this is
yes.
a perfect time to be discussing on the show because, as we all know, he was one of the number one village leaders that spilled over into the state and also into the nation. And I'm just so honored to say that. But yes, we need a village, and the village is still there. Joining in and agreeing with Mr. Smith and also with you, Stan. We are the ones that's needed to help coach, to help encourage, to help build the younger generation. I am from the family of 12 years, from the family of 12, excuse me. My father, who was an incredible village leader on our street and in our community, and my mother, who was an awesome partner right by his side, they so displayed what the village really looked like in front of their 12 children. And as a result to that, with me being tied into a church, which is a village, and being able to get teachings and to be able to put it together, I can honestly say has helped me to become an effective leader in the village with the younger village. And so, there are just some discipline principles that are practical that I feel like we need to continue to role model in front of this younger generation, along with set the example in front of this generation in order for it to be fit to become back. Because we are that remnant, but at the same exact time, some of them are hungry. So before I go into that, Pastor, I just want to at least put that out there because I try to practice those type of principles that's already been embedded in me from my parents, but also too tying it in with the teaching that I've been getting from Change Your Mind Ministries leadership village team. So I just want to throw that out there, Pastor.
Appreciate that, Lisa. You took me down memory lane when you talked about your family. You said it was,
Yes, sir.
it was 12 of y'all.
Yes, sir.
And
12 months.
it made me think about my grandmother for a long period of time. My grandmother had 9 kids, Stan, and she did most of that as a single mother. But
Wow.
I also remember that in Woodruff, 110 McCord was a hub, and I was like, as a kid growing up, I saw my grandmother feed other people, and I'm like, that's a single, but not that I'm old enough and I got perspective better, and I know how much stuff costs now.
Yes.
It seemed like it was synonymous with us, y'all. That big families, they stand because you come from a big one.
Yep.
They did not hunker down.
Mm-mm.
They did not circle the wagons. It almost seemed like the bigger the family were, the more giving that they used to be.
Yeah.
And somehow they made that thing work. And so, Lisa, you really made me think about that. But here's what I want to go to, because let's open this with, because Stan, you threw me off with that comment. You threw me in, not all, because I want to go there. You talked about the keepers of the village, or the ones. I guess in my mind, what I saw is the old track analogy, that the people that we're handing the baton to, they're younger.
That's right.
They're younger. And you said their perspective is different.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about that. Lead us into that. What do you mean?
What I mean by that is, if we look at the traditional keepers of the village, none of them were self-absorbed. Every single one of them were selfless and had a sense of selfishness. Because if you're going to be a village keeper, it can't be about you.
Absolutely.
It's always got to be about the people that you're trying to keep. So even if we look around, and I have to say this because it's on my mind, even if we look around into the current body of Christ, we have to ask ourselves, as far as their responsibility as being a village keeper, how self-absorbed have they become that has allowed them to detach themselves from the actual village? Because right now, everybody is concerned with who gets credit, whose team you're on, and so if we look, when I grew up, Miss Sadie, if she saw me acting up, she ain't care nothing about smacking me upside the head, and it wasn't about her getting the credit for smacking me upside the head. And another thing, our younger generation of village keepers are afraid, and I say that to say this. They're afraid of the consequence that it takes when they see a young person doing something wrong and they correct them if that young person is not their child. oh, the mom and daddy's going to get on you, or the mom and daddy's going to say this. Here's how I feel. I'm afraid if I see a young person doing something wrong and I don't say something.
Yeah.
Because I'm old enough to know better, and that responsibility falls on me once I see it. And if the parent gets mad at me for correcting their child, that's an issue that the parent has, not that I have.
Oh, you hit on two things. I'm gonna let y'all talk. Let me write these down, because you hit on self-promotion, but also something that I did want us to talk about is this fear that we grow up with.
Right.
The fear that, and let's be honest, it's a real fear.
Yeah.
Because the dynamics have changed of correcting somebody's child, and then you may have to suffer the wrath of that parent.
Yeah.
Now, when we grew up, we knew that if somebody had to correct us, other than our parent, what was going to happen when that message got home that Miss Johnson had to get on you? Miss Johnson had to even whip you.
You're right. Round two. Round three.
The rule was, if you in my yard, you my child.
Yeah.
And when that phone call got back to Mama Smith, because I think Smitty, I think you're more scared of Mama than Daddy. But I'm still scared of Mama. So what happened, y'all? What happened once we got home?
You gonna get it.
We got the beat down, whether it was a hose pipe or a frying pan. I mean, we got it in our house.
Yeah.
And we got it from our neighbors.
Yeah.
And in
Pastor
school.
Jones, you mentioned your house being a hub. Everywhere that I've lived, when Steve and them were younger, all the children in the neighborhood wanted to come over our house. And here's a conversation that I had with their parents, especially if we're talking about an overnight situation. Whatever my kids get, if they do good stuff, if your kids are around, they're going to get that too. Whatever my kids get, if they have an issue, your kids are going to get that too. So if that's not good with you, keep them at home.
Keep them at the house. Keep them at the house. Smitty and Lisa. So what y'all think about the younger generation who are now being tasked with keeping the village?
I was just gonna say, Stan, you bring up an interesting challenge and something that we need to just stop and highlight real quick, and that is the majority of us grew up with the big mamas and whatnot. It's our responsibility to bring that back into our culture. If we don't, it's lost.
That's right.
Because our kids don't know about that. Our kids don't know about you go down the street, say something crazy in Miss Esme yard, and Miss Esme take her hand and pop you dead in your mouth.
Yes.
And then she called one of my parents, and I knew I was gonna get it. And and you guys right, Stan. I don't know if it's Stan or you, Jones, who's talked about the courage part. When it comes to the village and the young folks who are around me, I am fearless.
Right.
They know if you come around me, you're gonna be respectful. And even kids that I don't know. I've been to basketball games before, and I'll hear a young man talking crazy, and there are adults around, the other girls around, and I'll just, hey man, come here.
That's right.
Don't want to embarrass him, because it's not about embarrassing him. It's about teaching him.
That's right.
Make him sit down right beside me and say, hey man, I promise you there's a better way for you to articulate yourself. And truth of the matter is, you don't realize it's not because you're young, but ladies actually think you're cooler when you're older and able to manage your emotions and be able to articulate yourself.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be cool when you're my age. Yeah. They don't want loud, unmanageable emotions.
Right.
And they're sending him about his way. And if his buddy say, what'd you say to him? Just say, we had a cool conversation.
That's right.
But we gotta be disciplined and aggressive about taking this village back to what it used to be. And let's not forget, because it's important, they watch what we do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if we're not modeling village behavior, they're not going to learn village behavior.
That's exactly
if we are not consistent.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of them, they really want it. I just want to put a different twist on it. You're correct, Smith, in reference to the approach. I just want to use myself as an example. For as being involved in District 25 and Senate 7 as one of the community leaders, it's put me in some places that I would be honest with you, I never would really just go there. And I want to say it's been a beautiful experience for me in reference to displaying the village in the hood. And this is my approach. I want to be honest, this is my approach. For an example, I go into a lot of our hoods, whether it's doing voter registration, whether it's doing my work, which is a summer camp, after school leader, or whether it's just to get out information in reference to the campaign. And one thing I have learned the importance of is honor. I saw how my father honored the leaders, especially the men on the streets. And I wanted to throw this out here. What comes to my mind, we had 3 men on our streets who had an illness, which was alcohol. They alcohol, that was their thing. And one of them in particular, he used to beat his wife. And so what we saw our father do is one day she came running across the street. The kids came running across the street, banging on the door. Mr. Bailey's beating me again. And what my father did, he let them in. The daughter went to the room with the girls, and the boys went to the room with the boys. And my father told my mother, he said, lock the door. And my mother's like, Walter, no, I don't want you to go. He said, lock the door. So-and-so know me, and we're going to deal with this. And so sure enough, my father went across the street, and I don't know what happened. My daddy came back 2 hours later, and everything was good. But what he did was he put a safe place in space for the family. So what he told his wife, this is something that he does only on the weekends. Through the week, he was an incredible man, paid his bills, food on the table, clothes on the kids' back, and it was not an issue. It was just on the weekend, his illness, that's how he handled it. So what they would do is come and spend a night with us on the weekends.
Wow.
So that's how we did the village. But what I love about it is when my father saw him starting on that Monday, he honored him as a black man. He honored him as a father. He honored him as a husband. And because of that standard of code of conduct that my father had, guess what? We roll with it as a family. The street roll with it. The community roll with it. And we all had a respect for this man. Okay, fast forward. When I go into the hoods, I ask who is the leadership in the hoods. Whether it's a drug dealer, whether it's a gangbanger, whether it's a single mother that may have an illness for his drinking, it doesn't make a difference. I ask who is the leadership, and the kids show me who the leaders are. And I go in with the honor. Okay, you may be the one that's selling drugs in the community. Okay, but I'm not going to take away the fact that those kids have gifts up under one of the big trees in this hood they don't want to cut down on Christmas Day. Okay, the gangbanger, he may not beat up a lot of people in that hood. He may beat up people on the outside of the hood. But guess what? I still have a level of honor for him being a gangbanger. And the same for this single parent who watches everybody kids in the hood, and she may have an alcohol issue, but at the same time, I show a level of honor. And it comes, I'm tying it in, it comes from my upbringing, but also what I've been taught in the church. And our pastor taught this wonderful message on grace, knowing how to separate the what their flesh versus the person's spirit. And so by me going in that way, I was able to find out the upbringing of the gangbanger, the drug dealer, and this young lady that's struggling and may have this issue of alcohol. But because I let them know, hey, I need your leadership. This is what I'm here for. And by me taking it from that standpoint, it gave them respect. So when I come down there, if one of the kids is getting out of line and try to step to me, they shut it down, say, that's Miss Lisa. Don't go at Miss Lisa like that. And it gives me the opportunity, Mr. Smith, to go in and help correct that child, okay, out of respect. So I'm just saying that's the right way. It's the approach. Because, and you know, I done it at the football games. They knew that when Miss Lisa came in that gym, they already know the whole student section gonna lock down because you're not gonna cuss the referees, not in my presence. Okay, you're not gonna go off if the coach don't put you in the game. We'll deal with that later. And what the kids in return do say, "Oh, that's Miss Lisa," and so they didn't have a problem if I did correct their kids. So when we get in the middle of it, when we get involved with what's going on, then it does show, hey, we got the opportunity to come in to really influence these young leaders, okay, that are in these situations, but at the same time, they're seeing what a village looks like. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
That makes absolute sense, Lisa. And I'm glad we took that turn. Let's stay in that vein for a minute, because
Yes, sir.
I've seen all three of you do this, and I don't know if y'all even do it consciously, but you do it effortlessly. And it seems to be a lost skill. The realization that everything has to be led by relationship.
Yes, sir.
And the way you just said it, Lisa, honor.
Yes,
Man,
sir.
honor and empathy seem to be the two things that we are in a huge deficit of. But
yes, sir.
I've watched the three of you approach contentious situations, remain calm, but also honor the individual,
Yes,
which
sir.
leads to them letting you further in.
Yes.
Further
Yes.
in.
Yes.
So you're not
Yes.
just coming at them for what you see.
Right.
You realize
Right.
there's more behind that.
Yes.
That has to be dealt with. So tell me about that. Some of y'all, because Lisa, let me hear from the fellas for a second, because you just did a wonderful job talking about your approach to that. Gentlemen, tell us a little bit about how you do that, and what it takes to even be able to do that for some of our listeners tonight who want to be more active in this village build out, that they gotta learn that approach.
Yeah. So like with any relationship, it all starts with trust. And so the one thing that I've learned over the past couple of years, especially dealing with student athletes, is believe it, as much as we like to call our kids knuckleheads, you really can't trick these kids about who really care about them and who don't.
That's
like
right.
they inherently know. And so the first thing you got to do is you got to love them up. The second thing that they want is more than we realize sometimes. They want to be instructed and given a path forward.
Yeah.
And so giving them a path forward is probably the next step. And they want to be checked on. Just today, a kid in our village, he's leaving for the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, plays football. I called him while he was en route, prayed with him, told him how proud of him I am, told him, again, keep God first. Even asked him if he had his Bible with him, which he said, I was no doubt that he was going to have it with him. But it's about building relationships, and the next piece, again, if we're going to perpetuate this past our generation, we've got to teach our kids about roles and responsibilities in the village. Mm-hmm. Somewhere between our generation and this new generation, we've lost this confidence in roles and responsibilities. Men doing this, women help doing that. And here's what I want to share with the three of you and the viewers. It's not the roles that have become the issue. It's become the misuse and the inability and the ill-equippedness of those in those roles that have created the issue with roles. There's nothing wrong with a man being a protector and a provider. There's nothing wrong with a woman being a nurturer. The issues, again, always come up with misuse of this inherent role, or just being ill-equipped to handle this role. And that's where the village comes in. We've got to equip our kids with the emotional quotient, and in some instances, the intelligence quotient to be able to handle the roles in our village.
Awesome. Cool.
Right. And also they got to know, why do you care? Mm-hmm. Why do you care about me? Especially as a coach. One of the things that I've learned is that when I first got into coaching, my oldest son, Steven, who Pastor Jones has on one of his sweat hoodies on right now, shout out to CCP. I started coaching when he was 12 years old, because I signed him up for the rec, and they didn't have coaches. So it's easy to see why a person coach if they have a child that they're coaching. But I haven't coached one of my kids since my youngest son, Shy, was in the 10th grade. And that's probably been, I don't know, 12 years. So why do I take the time out of my day to even care? Because we all know that it'd be easier for me if I just didn't care. If I didn't care and I just wanted to go about worrying about me and my wife and that's it. But the kids want to know, Coach, why do you care? And I also do this because I've had kids that have gone to college and they all say, hey, Coach, when I make it to the league, I'm going to come and give you this. And here's what I tell them. I don't want you to give me anything. Now, if you feel compelled to come back and talk to our kids. Mm-hmm. Come back and tell them what it took you to get there. But me personally, y'all look behind me. I got all the shoes I could ever want.
We see.
You can't give me no shoes.
You better not buy another pair.
Right. And honestly, over my coaching career, I've won enough games that people know I can coach. So you can't do anything for me. It's about me caring about you, the person. I too call our college athletes and check on them and just make sure that they know that coach is just checking up on them. But it's because I care about them. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with anything that I could gain. But they want to know, why do you care about me?
Yeah,
Stan, that's so right. You know, I'll hear kids sometimes say, you know, coach, when I make it, blah blah blah, and I'm like, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your degree. Yep. I want you to become the best husband, the best dad that you can be, or the best mom that you can be. And when you do that, in addition to hopefully being able to talk to somebody like I talked to you, consider us even.
That's right.
And I think sometimes y'all make me think of some stuff because I coached years ago. Like Stan, I used to coach my kids in Little League football, and the people that I coached grew up with my kids, and I remember Stan being in the stands at a Greenville High football game, and I was getting ready to leave, and one of the cheerleaders ran over to me and said, "Mr. Jones, so and so said don't leave. He's got something to tell you." I was like, "Okay." One of the players, and I had coached them, and they still to this day, if they come to the church, I ain't pastor, I'm coach. I'm forever coach. And so I walked down. I thought something was wrong. I said, "What's going on, son?" He said, "Hey, Coach, I just need to tell you I love you."
Wow.
Like, whoa. He said, you were like a father figure to me. He said, "You've encouraged me every time you see me. You check on me still." He said, "Coach, I just needed to tell you before I go off to college that I love you."
Yeah.
That's
Man.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I was peeling onions.
Well, that's where we get our crown, if you would say, because we know this: kids are not built by nature to tell you thank you.
That's right.
That's right. They're not built that way.
Yeah.
And so when you have that, or now that I'm older, I'll have kids that will introduce me to their kids, and they'll be like, "Yo, that's my coach." Or kids that will come back and tell me, "Coach, you know, the first time we went to a AAU tournament out of Anderson, that's the first time I ever left Anderson." Or I had never been out of South Carolina until we went here. But that's where we get our thanks, is when a kid comes up and says, "I appreciate you taking time out with me."
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know who it was. Someone was saying earlier about, people know real and people know fake.
Yeah.
And so even when you let a child know that you care about them, they know whether you're sincere, whether you're genuine or not. A lot of times, even the kids in the community, whether they are part of my camp or not, I always find something beautiful to say about them. I mean, now I am into the natural hair, and I love it. And I love to tell kids, I love your hair. It is so beautiful. Or even if they're darker skin complexion, I love your skin. It is beautiful. So I try to find something that they can relate to in their heart, whether it's a low self-esteem issue or whether they just don't have it. I always still try to let them know that I care from that standpoint, because like you said, that is the crown when they come back and say, "Well, thank you for saying that, to me," or "Thank you for doing this for me."
Yeah. And another thing that helps, especially when you're dealing with our young men, Pastor Jones, if you've been around me and you hear me address our guys, I always call them young Mr. and whatever their last name is.
Yes.
Whatever, young Mr., whatever it is, I address them as Mr.
Until you give them a nickname.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Now, when I give them a nickname, then they're going to be that. But I address them as Mr. so they can see themselves as Mr.
Yes.
So they can carry themselves as Mr. And once you do that, it gives them a different light. If I'm around any of my kids now and they see me before I see them, heaven help if they got their pants pulled down, the first thing they're going to do is jack those pants up. Because I'm going to walk up to them and be like, young Mr. Jones, what's wrong with your pants?
Yeah.
And they know that. So it's about giving them that perception that I am a king, that I am a young prince.
That's good,
man.
man.
When you address them by that, they can learn to walk in that.
Self-worth.
Yes.
Self-worth.
And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we talked a lot about us as it relates to the kids in the village, but the other piece to making the village work is, fine tuning the interaction between the adults, in particular the men in the village.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. We can be tough on one another. And we've got to do better than that, and we've got to do better about the kind of behavior that we model in front of our kids. A perfect example, there was my son, one of his buddies was just had a horrible report card, and it just so happened that he was talking about it with his dad in front of myself, my son, and 3 other dads and their sons, men whom I consider part of my village. And we stopped and had a conversation with them right there in the parking lot about the importance of education and what people have gone through to give them an opportunity to have the education that they have. And then we talked about, just real things that go on in our lives, because, we a lot of times we try to teach our kids how to be Superman, when in fact, to really get through life, you need to learn how to be Clark Kent.
That's right.
Because you're gonna have flaws. Some bullets are gonna wound you. You will have your kryptonite. Right. And so we just, we need to do better as men when it comes to sort of modeling that behavior. Wendell's kids and my kids have had the privilege of seeing the brotherhood that we have. Myself, Wendell's, a couple other old teammates and fraternity brothers. I have no doubt that is influencing my son's perspective of how you engage with other Black men. Yeah. He's heard me tell Wendell's his godfather. He's heard me tell Wendell, "I love you," to Wendell's face. Yeah. I can't necessarily say that I saw that coming up. So that is a tweaking of the love meter as far as the next village. But my dad told me all the time that he loved me. But we've got to fine tune this thing on how we engage one another. I heard a lady say one day that she was on the phone with one girlfriend of hers, and her daughter was sitting beside her. She was talking to the girlfriend, just yucking it up, having a good time. Got off the phone with her, got on the phone with another one of their girlfriends, started talking about the girl that she was on the phone with the first time. Her daughter hears this, starts talking about the first person, and she said it stopped her in her tracks, because she realized what she was doing was teaching her daughter bad village habits. And I just never forgot that story. And I think part of fixing the village and fixing the next generation is fixing our generation. Yeah.
I think you nailed it, because you're right, Smith. I watched Stan and Lisa. I watched how our kids, me, Dana's kids, and Smitty's kids interact with us, and because they know we love each other, my kids have no hang-ups. Right. Uncle Smitty can call Ben right now, and Ben gonna sit down and listen to him. I think Aaliyah swoons every time Smitty calls Uncle Smitty. I like, but she loves Smitty and Dana. She loves them, but I trust them with my daughter. I trust them with my sons, but they also trust them because they see the love that we have for each other. Yeah. And I think we have to model it. Model relationship, male to male relationship, male to female relationship, female to female relationship, so that the healthiness of the village will be attractive to the next generation.
Yes,
I want to be a part of that, because I like what y'all doing over there.
I want to add one more part, because I think this is important too. A lot of times our kids need to see how men can have healthy, nurturing, helpful relationships with women without wanting something else.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I've made it a designated habit of mine to make sure that my son sees that is opening doors. You don't open doors to try and open something else. I'll say it
That's
like
good.
that.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and so that's I think that's important as well.
Absolutely. You touched on something else. I want to throw out that to the group because I've noticed this. Even we've all experienced this with kids. Is that and this might help the next generation want to step up and be the keepers of this. The fact that it is not necessary to be super, that you don't have to be Superman. You have to be Clark Kent. And one of the things that's true about kids, that if they see you or they hear something, they coming. No, when I got divorced, some of the kids like, hey, coach, hey, pastor, how you doing? What happened?
Mm-hmm. And they want to know just that. What happened?
They want you to talk to them, not blow them off. And you have to figure out what degree you can talk about that. But nonetheless, it is our opportunity to not just teach them how to run picks. It's our opportunity not to just teach them how to run a clean out route. How to do life when life don't look good, when it don't work like you wanted it to. They want those off the field, off the court conversations too, because they're anticipating that, man, adulthood look like it's rough, and so we have to be willing to have those conversations as well.
Well, and I think what you have to do is, and as we've gotten older, as I gotten older, I've learned that life is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going to happen. I don't care who you are. If you live long enough, I tell my friends this all the time. I'm probably the oldest person on this panel. Next month, I'll be 59. And one of the advantages of living a long time is that you live a long time. One of the disadvantages of living a long time is that you're going to see people around you that die. Okay. So what I do is this. I am now old enough to be honest with people about when life happens.
Mm-hmm.
When life happens, you just got to say, you know something, dude, I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped out of pocket on this, or I was ignorant on this, or this happened in my life. But you also have to let them know that as life happens, it doesn't end.
Right.
There's
That's
only
right.
one end to life, and that is death. So if we're talking about it, that means that there is a reconciliation point in that situation.
Yes.
That means that there's always a way to say, you know what, that was jacked up, but now I can fix it, or I can move on. So we just got to be honest enough, even though that means exposing some of our weaknesses. Sometimes we don't want to do that, because we like the perception as men. We like the perception of thinking that we don't do any wrong sometimes.
Right.
But listen, I'm going to tell you something. I jack up.
We can mug it up.
Yeah.
And that's setting them up for an illusion.
Yeah.
Like life, just you're not gonna get the best hand dealt to you all the time, and you gonna get, sometimes you get a nice hand dealt with you that you don't play right.
That's right.
So it can go both ways. Lisa Sweeny, did y'all have something to say about that?
Yes, sir, Pastor. I mean, that's great. I just have two things that I want to share about me. The first thing I want to share in reference to being a community leader, and where I was at on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I was down at the Connery Inn, where they had evicted over 111 people. And so when we got there, we had the sheriff department, police officers there, coding was there, DHEC was there, and a couple other county people was there. And so when they was knocking on the doors to have the people to come out of their hotel rooms, because they had no warning they was getting ready to be evicted, by the time they got all the people out the room, then I was able, myself and another community leader, we was able to bring the people together. So you got people crying, French and everything. And so this is what I told the people. I said, hey, I come here, I'm here in the name of love. Okay, because I want to go ahead and discard and disarm all that. I come here in the name of love. Can I share something with you guys? I really wish I could tell y'all that I grew up in a penthouse, okay, with a silver spoon in my mouth, and everything has been wonderful and beautiful, and that I didn't have any kind of issues. I said, but guess what? I can relate. I can relate as a single parent, because I began to share with them. I had to stay in a hotel. I stayed in a hotel for about 3 months because we were in the process of moving, and when we was moving to, it wasn't going to be ready. Where I was at, I had to leave. So I want to let them know that, hey, I can get some of y'all pain. I can feel some of y'all pain, especially seeing some of the single ladies. I'm talking about with infants. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when I come out there, they saw me. I had makeup on, got my little ponytail like I got on now, and I was dressed just a little bit more decent because I never know when I'm going to be in front of the news, but I always want to represent our community. And so I was glad that I had experienced something similar, not quite on that level, but something similar to where I could find something common to where they could trust me and know we got you guys. Because we also had the housing allowance, the homeless housing allowance lady that was there. As we got them transported where they need to go, then she was gonna swipe the card and put them in hotels up for a week. So that was a time for me to be transparent, and it was no embarrassment, no shame in my game. And then the second thing is, and nobody knows this other than my family, and I'll let you in. I have 3 other people that stand with me right now. One of them was a freshman in college, and 2 were teenagers. Okay, when the pandemic hit, y'all know all kind of pressure hit. Hey, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if the Lord was trying to come back or if the devil was just trying to kill us all. But in the meantime, I ended up with one of the college graduates coming to stay with me because he and his parents had bumped head, got into a disagreement. And so I went over and got him. And when he got in the car, I said, first of all, you're not going to say anything to me about your parents because your parents are my friends. I said, but what I need you to do is come and stay with me. I love you. This is what we do in my home. This is how I handle stuff in my home. And I need him to see that, because see, when he see me, he just see me as Miss Lisa's that come in fellowship with them sometimes, and we talk about God, we talk about the word. But he's never been with me to where he saw how I manage my home, how I interact with my kids. So if we had a situation, he just saw it for real. I didn't try to hide nothing. I didn't try to cover up nothing. He was able to see how I handle myself as a parent along with my kids. And then I had 2 teenagers who was just rebellious. You know, one of them come from a single parent home. I know your mama. I'm not gonna say nothing bad about your mama, but you come to my house. But this is how we're gonna handle the situation, deal with the situation. And then of course another one. So that was the opportunity for me to say, okay, Lisa, you always saying you this village person, you know, you saying you this village leader. Now is your opportunity to really be able to allow yourself to be tested in this area. And it hasn't been anything fake. It hasn't been anything phony. I still needed them to see, okay, guess what? Just like my parents or my parent got flaws, Miss Lisa got flaws too. But we know underneath all of that, Miss Lisa still love us. Miss Lisa still got us. And also to sharing, like Pastor was saying about his grandmother, how she had those kids as a single parent, but the food never ran out. I've seen God go beyond putting the extra water in the pot. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to be transparent and we have to be real. But when we understand who we are and we understand the purpose of what we're doing, and going back to, like I was saying earlier, to some of the principles that we need to apply as village leaders, then guess what? It does help. It does bring a healing, and people will trust, and people will want to be a part of what they see us displaying. So yeah, that's good, Stan, being honest and transparent. Yes,
Awesome.
Smith. Yeah, you're right.
Guys, this time is flying by. So what I want to do, man, this is good. This is good. I could talk to y'all for another 2 or 3 hours, but we're running out of time. And so, but here's what this is what I want y'all to do for me before we sign off tonight. For those people who have lost hope in this concept of village, I want y'all to give them some parting words. Each of you take a turn to give them some parting words. Let's bring hope back to this whole concept. So whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Okay, I'll go. To those out there that have lost hope, understand that there are people out here that want to be village keepers that you can look up to, that you can rely on, but you have to be vulnerable. You cannot be resistant of the village leader. So if your hopelessness causes you to be resistant, then you're just it's just going to be a really hard road. But there are people out there that care more about you than they care about themselves on that. So just don't be resistant, be vulnerable, and know that there are people out here that still want that village concept, and that it's out here.
Thank you, Coach. Smitty, Lisa.
Yeah. So let me start with something that's personal to me, and I think Wendell's heard me say this before. I have personally, my family, we have personally lived through an extended period of harvest as a family. I am 1,000% convinced that the deal that God and I have is if you use the gifts that I give you with others, I will make sure that there's enough in there for you and them. Mm-hmm. And he has held true to that promise for well over a decade. And like I said, we're living through a spectacular period of harvest. I don't knock on wood because I know nothing related to this wood had anything to do with this. Right. The second thing, so there is promise in the village for you as a village leader. The second thing that I would say is I've seen what it's done for the next generation. There's a young man, his grades were basically D's and F's, was barely staying eligible to play football. We started having a conversation about the importance of education, not sending him to tutors, just a conversation about the importance of education. Explain to him what education has done for my life and what resilience has done for my life. Talk to him about when I was laid off, when my son was an infant, and how from the office to the time I got home to my wife, I cried, prayed, and gathered myself because I knew as a man I had to provide, and got myself together. And a couple of months after that, actually had the most influential increase job-wise that I've ever had. But I shared a story with him to talk about resilience. Fast forward, he's in junior college right now, made the dean's list this past semester, and I was snot bubbly when he sent me a screenshot of his grades because I knew what he came from and I knew what we talked about to get him to where he is. So, folks, we're changing lives. We're changing the next generation, and it's our responsibility.
Thank you, sir. Lisa.
Yes, sir. Okay, I want to start out by saying, first of all, I want to ask for forgiveness to the village of those who are trying to figure it out. I ask for forgiveness as a leader. I ask for forgiveness because I was not that leader that should have stepped up at one time. But because I have gone through experiences, and because I've gone through, as Mr. Stan has said, life happens. Okay, a manageable situation happens, but in my brokenness, it opened up the eyes for me to come out and be with help and share, and to send you to who can help you in areas that I may not be gifted for or that I may not be equipped for, but to link you up with those of us. There's a remnant that wants to step up and to coach and show you how to be a part of the village, but in a creative way based upon your generation. So I want you to know that there are some of us out here that we are very sincere in what we're doing, and we really do want to help bring healing to you, but we do need you to allow us in. As we honor you, we are asking in return that you honor us, meaning esteem us just like we esteem you, and be there for us just like we will be there for you. So there is hope, and the time is now. It's a beautiful thing. It's now.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, this was fantastic, fantastic. We're going to put you backstage for a minute. Don't go anywhere because I want to talk to you once I log off because I just want to tell you thank you and just love on you a little bit more. So thank you all so much for Smitty, Stan, Lisa. Thank y'all for being a part. This is something that we need to hear, especially on this MLK Day. What a wonderful topic to discuss with our community, and that we are just that. We are still a community. All right, folks, I want to tell you thank you again for tuning in. My desire is that you take what was said and you take it to heart. Are there flaws in the community? Are there flaws? Have we missed it in the whole idea of building a village and being village keepers? Absolutely. We've done that because we're human. We're human. We've done that because life happens. Things happen to the best of people. Things happen. But here's the thing I want you to understand. We have not given up on the idea of community. We have not given up on the idea of a village. We still think it takes a village to raise a child. What that means, parents, that does not mean that you're ill-equipped. It just means that it's a wonderful gift to have a variety of perspectives, have a variety of aunts and uncles. You know, that's been one of the reasons I believe our after-school program, our leadership academy, has been successful, because the thing that we approach is that we're not teachers, we're aunts and uncles, and we approach it from a village standpoint. Aunts and uncles can approach you differently. They can get in your stuff when you're not acting right, but you know they're coming from a place, a deep place of love for you. We have to get back to that place, that deep place of love, and not be afraid to express love, but also be able to express disappointment. But we can have disappointment without the loss of faith. We still have faith in you, but we coming to you with this heart of correction, not because we don't believe in you. You don't correct people that you think that can't do a thing. You correct people who you believe have the possibility and the potential of being great. And so we have to be able to love, and we have to also be able to correct. And that does have to be a two-way street. It has to go back and forth. Just as we can correct, we have to also be teachable ourselves. We have to make sure that this village concept is in the forefront of our community, because we need one another. As the Bible says, one can set 1,000 to flight, two can set 10,000 to flight. God shows us that our unity, he rewards it by multiplying the rewards of it, the benefits of it. So the more we come together, the more heaven makes available to us. We need each other. Times like this, we've always needed each other, but right now, we need each other. Let's work on getting this village back. Guys, I want to invite you to tune in with us for the remainder of the week on CYMtv. Tomorrow night at 7, we're going to have something from our youth programming. So put your baby in front of the screen, because I know they've been missing church. Wednesday night, we're going to come back and we're going to dissect the sermon from Sunday. This week's sermon was Even Kings Cry. Powerful message for men and also for the women that love them. And Thursday night, we're going to do some throwback, pull up some old sermons and just have a good time. And then Friday, you get to hear from one of our ministers who's going to do a fantastic job. So thank you for your support of CYMtv. Thank you for tuning in on this MLK Day. We hope that we bless you. It's been a blessing to be in front of you. All right, guys, until next time, much love.